Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new to the channel, my name's Tim. This is Vehicle Evolution, and today we have the Riaction Coilover review for you. I know it's been a little while since I put the coilovers on, and I've had a bunch of people asking me about them, and I didn't want to jump to do a review too quickly because, you know, my initial impressions of those budget coilovers was good until I got 100 miles into it, and then they were junk. So I wanted to give them some time and just make sure that these were actually everything that I thought they would be. So before I get started on the actual review of the coilover itself, let me tell you why I went with Riaction Coilovers over something more popular and more common like the BC Racing coilovers or Tane or anything like that. And for me, it was pretty simple. My whole premise for doing this YouTube channel and to bring content to you guys is to give you something that you haven't necessarily seen before, or something that you may have questions on and want to see how it works. So we all know the BC Racing coils history. We all know about Tane, Megan Racing, all those ones. There's enough content out there on them that I didn't want to just overdo that. So when I saw the Riaction coilovers, they really sparked my interest. The build quality looked awesome. The style certainly looked good, although you shouldn't just buy something based on that. But they just looked like they were well made. So I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to bring you guys something that you haven't seen before. And to make it even better, instead of doing the regular coilover system, I did the True Rear Coilover on the Genesis Coupe. And for those of you who don't know what a True Rear Coilover is, the Genesis Coupe has what you want to call a separated or divorced suspension system in the rear, which means you have a spring and then you have your strut. And what this does is it puts the spring and strut all together like the front shock tower is, and puts it in one spot on the rear and takes that extra spring out of there. And the idea is that it's supposed to make your controllability for that particular corner a lot better. So if you're drifting your car, if you're doing any kind of racing, if you want to be able to adjust the preload on that spring specifically, you can do that. Where with a traditional setup, you can't do anything but adjust your ride height on the rear. You have no adjustment capability on the spring load itself. So this is something that you actually can do with the True Rear Coilovers, and I have the ability to do with this car, although I don't track it, I don't race it, but I wanted to see how it works. So that's what I did. So let's get into what makes Riaction Coilovers so great and what do I think of them. All right, so let's go over some of the key features of the Riaction Coilovers that are actually fairly common with some of the other manufacturers as well, like dampening. We have 32 levels of adjustable dampening on the Riaction Coilovers. Some of the other ones only offer you 16 or 24 levels. Riaction gives you 32, so you can really fine-tune the ride quality for you. The Riaction Coilovers also give you adjustable mounting brackets so that your mounting bracket is independent from the actual spring load adjustment. So you can adjust your ride height without adjusting your spring load. Again, something that can be fairly common on other manufacturers as well. Where you get into some of the differences though is in the construction of it. The Riaction Coilovers feature a chromoly heat-treated steel shaft, which allows for increased strength, better performance, and more reliability of the coilover itself. You also have Canberra Adjustments, which feature a high-quality pillow ball, which allows for a direct feel, but also makes it so that you don't get any spring binding during operation. They also give you radial bearings, which gives you a smoother steering response and also allows for quieter operation. So now that we've got some of the key features out of the way, what exactly do I think about these coilovers? Well, you know, compared to my springs, they're fantastic. I was running arc lowering springs before, and they were very stiff. Every bump in the road, every rut, every pothole, anything, it just jolted the front of the car. I mean, kind of to the point where I thought that at some point I'm gonna bust something on my front end. These coilovers give me a ride quality that rivals the stock suspension, if not smoother than the stock suspension, but giving me the same control that you would expect out of a high performance coilover, which, if that makes any sense, you know, the point being, they're smooth. They're very smooth, but allow you that nice control that you're looking for. I haven't played with adjusting the preload on any of the springs. Like I said before, I don't do any tracking, so it's not that big of an important feature for me, but it's something that some of you may be looking for, and it might be a very well important feature for you. I've actually found for daily driving that the lowest dampening setting, giving me the softer ride, is actually the most comfortable, especially for highway driving. And then if I'm going to be kind of out and about, just taking a joyride on some back roads, I might dial the dampening down to maybe halfway to stiffen up my front end some, so that I can just take some corners a little bit quicker than what I would normally. But for just everyday driving, the lowest dampening setting is very, very comfortable, very smooth. And when I do dial the coilovers down to stiffen them up, it gives me that response that I'm looking for without sacrificing too much of the ride quality. You're going to get a little bit stiffer ride because the dampening's stiffer, but you're not anywhere near the way it was with lowering springs. So it's a huge plus there. So the other plus is the ease of installation. You guys saw the video I did on installing them. It's pretty quick, pretty simple. If you've done coilovers before, if you've done your springs, even if you've just changed out a shock tower before, this is not a hard thing to do, and anybody really can do it with not that high level of mechanical knowledge. It's pretty easy to do. Your Canberra adjustments, if you're running a specific wheel setup where you need to be able to adjust your camber, you have that ability with these coilovers. I didn't have to do that. I locked them in right where they came from the factory, and my fitment is right on the money. But if you're running a wide body kit, or you're running a wider wheel setup where you may need that camber adjustment to be able to tuck them into the fenders, you have that ability with these. Best of all, these are no more expensive than BC Racing coilovers or any of the mainstream coilovers that are out there. And honestly, for the money, you get a lot for your money. I personally feel that these perform at a level that is well beyond their price range. The price that they're set at is a exceptional deal for these coilovers. Lastly, you have the style of the coilover. Now, for some people, the color, the look, any of that stuff doesn't matter. It's behind the wheel, you're not going to see it, so what difference does it make? Then for some of us, we actually want the stuff that's under our hood, under our wheels, behind everything to look good and have that almost show type quality about them, and the Riaction coilovers deliver on that too. The two-tone black and red really works well, and behind my wheels you still get a glimpse of them and they look pretty sharp. So from a design standpoint, I give them top marks for that. So overall, build quality is fantastic on them. Adjustability is second to none on them. The ability to actually rebuild these things and get parts from a US distributor is there. They're right in California. You can get parts pretty quickly for them. So if something does go wrong, the support is immediately there for you. And then lastly, styling is right on the money. So in short, these coilovers, well worth the money. Absolutely well worth the money. And if you're considering BC Racing coilovers or Tane or any of the other ones, you really want to take a look at these and seriously consider these as well, because you will not be disappointed. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. But that's all from me for now, guys. Until next time, take it easy.